Here we go, number 78, Abuelo and the Nieto talking Miami sports. The Abuelo over here and over there in New York, the Nieto. We're going to be talking about the Heat. Are they going to be able to get out of that play-in that they have been in the last 2 or 3 years? We'll check on that. Also, the Dolphins getting close to free agency. That's next week. What can they look for? They don't have too much money, so that's going to be difficult. Also, the WBC here in Miami, they'll have the group with the Dominican, with Venezuela, and then quarterfinals, semifinals, and the finals. Who are the favorites? So that's Abuelo and the Nieto. We have Miami Sports Trivia looking at a great Miami player also by Tyler. That's his segment. So we have a lot of stuff going, and this is presented by Balado Tires, 2 locations in Miami to serve you better. Tyler, this is number 78. That's a lot of episodes, huh?
Yeah, 78, and it's I think the Dolphins could really use somebody like this right now, especially their offensive line struggling. Tua, you're just watching a quarterback run around in circles for the past few years. Having a guy like I won't say the name, I'll let you say it, but would have really benefited the Dolphins.
Oh, yeah. Number 78, Richmond Webb. Who can forget him? He protected Dan Marino for quite a few years. He was drafted number 1 in 1990 and had a great career with the Dolphins, 7-time Pro Bowler. He's a member of the honor roll, the Dolphins honor roll. So definitely a great offensive lineman that Miami would need. I agree with you right at this time. But what do we have here to start? Abuelo and the Nieto, Tyler.
Yes, wanted to talk about the Miami Heat with the NBA season kind of getting into its home stretch right now. Things are wrapping up, standings are starting to, kind of formulate, get a better idea of how things are going to turn out, and wondering if this team is going to make the play in, and as somebody who has interest in the future of this team, whether you think that would benefit them, to make the play in and expectedly probably lose within that next first round or two.
Well, yeah, it's going to be tough, Tyler. They're number 8 right now in the East,
Yep.
and they have Orlando and Philadelphia there. Orlando just by percentage points ahead of them, and then they have number 6, Philadelphia. They're gonna get to number 6. They definitely have a shot. They have 18 games left, starting with Detroit. Of course, Friday night they had the tough game versus Charlotte. Charlotte is playing at a very high level, 10 wins on the road, 6 wins in a row going into the Miami game. So, you have to be careful with Atlanta and Charlotte that are right behind you. Atlanta is playing at a very high level. They got some reinforcements there. Some of those teams made some moves. So it's going to be tough because they have some competition right on top of them, and then have some competition right at the bottom. So if you look at the situation right now, Tyler, it's really Heat, Philadelphia, Magic, uh, Charlotte, and Atlanta fighting for that number 6. Everybody wants to get to number 6 and get out of the play-in. Miami wants to get out of the play-in. I see it more like a number 7. Miami, maybe number 8, but more like a number 7 due to the inconsistency, Tyler. And also, not having Powell. He got hurt a little bit. I think he'll be back very soon. But you have to stay healthy as you get to the end of the season. They end up, the season with playing 3 out of 4 away, and the last game is versus Atlanta. So let's see how they react. Now they have quite a few games now at home, so they have to take advantage of that situation. But some of those games are tough, starting with the Detroit. Even they're playing them at home, but it's going to be a tough game. So more realistically, I see them as a number 7, and they probably get into the playoffs, but definitely have a shot at number 6.
The Heat might be able to avoid the playoffs, but one thing you can't avoid is getting a flat tire on these Miami streets. And if you get one, who do you call?
Yeah,
I don't have a car, so I got to know who you call.
yeah, but you're probably going to have one soon, and you have
Yeah.
to be careful with those those flat tires, Tyler. So I don't
Uh,
want you to be visiting the, Balado too many times. Okay, maybe once the most.
well,
Okay,
that's the thing with
so
Balalo. You visit them once and they take care of you. You don't have to keep coming back and doing all that stuff. You know.
okay, yeah, but they're not gonna give you a new car, okay? So they'll take care of they'll take care of the tires. So two locations for Balado Tires: 27th Avenue Northwest and 16th Street, Southwest 8th Street and 67th Avenue. They're very competitive with their prices. They have all the brands, and they also repair your brakes. So that is Balado Tires, 63 years established in the market. That is a lot of years. So you can count on them.
Moving on, we got Miami Dolphins. You mentioned Heat season coming to a close. The Dolphins are now, in a different phase of that offseason. They're approaching free agency, approaching the whole draft process, which I think, go hand in hand in acquisition. I think you got to identify who you're going to chase after in the draft to not throw a ton of money at them in free agency. So just kind of wondering the direction this team's going to take with limited finances at their disposal. Obviously,
Right.
quarterback is a question. We've spent the past few weeks talking about Malik Willis. Also mentioned that they cleared up some cap space by getting rid of Tyreek Hill. So maybe in my opinion, when I go receiver, I like to go receiver through the draft. There are a ton of good receivers who could go in and be productive for you. So why waste money on a veteran? That's the way I view the position personally. But I do think there are positions that this team needs to address in free agency, especially when you look at the interior as well.
Yeah, Tyler, the problem is that right now they under the cap around $1 million, actually less than 1 million. So I look for them to make some moves in the next few hours. That's how soon it's going to be. If they're going to do anything in free agency, we don't know how much they're going to do. We know they're not going to do much because they don't have much. So they're not going to do much. We're talking maybe three, four players the most. So you got to decide who you go with, and then of course, we're assuming that they're going to make some moves to pick up some money. You have the possibility of Sanders, the kicker, Austin Jackson, the tackle, maybe one of the linebackers. So let's say, of course, you have the situation with Fitzpatrick. Is he going to get traded in the next few hours? So that is also a possibility. The possibility with Tua, but with Tua, you're not gonna get much money out of that below the cap. So and Tua looks very difficult to move right now. Uh, uh, I look really for a release. So they need everything. So who's gonna make a prediction of what they're going to get? I would get a quarterback, Tyler, because you need somebody to compete. Let's say you get a guy in the fifth round, sixth round. I don't think they're going to go early for a quarterback in the draft. So you got yours, and then you have a rookie, and then you have a free agent to fight it out. I think that's what makes sense. So you got to figure Willis. I think they want him, but are they going to be able to get him? Doesn't look good at all because he's asking, around $10 million per year. I don't see that being a possibility really. So Garoppolo is, I think it's a good option. It might be around $3 or $4 million. He's got experience, and then everything else. They need everything: corner, safety, edge, offensive line, uh, right? So I mean, there is an edge in Agbari. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing this right, from Green Bay. So he comes from the right place, right? Uh, and he's 26 years old. He doesn't have these great numbers, but he's got some projection. And then they got Chasen from New England, also a young guy. They were both 26 years old. The receiver Hodgins from 6'3", 200-pounder from the Giants is a possibility. And then Washington, the safety from the Ravens, also a possibility because these are guys that are cheap, Tyler. And you really have to look for those type of guys because if you don't have that much money, let's say they make some moves and they got $9-10 million. What can you do with that? You're not going to be able to do much. So I see them doing very little in free agency, And then what you're saying, Tyler, you're right. You build through the draft. And remember, they're going to have a bunch of free agents that they're going to sign. I'll make that prediction after the draft. They'll probably bring in 18, 20 people. I would not be surprised. And they'll try to get some of those positions that they have needs, because sometimes you get lucky, because there's luck involved in this. You bring up a bunch of guys and maybe three or four of them, click, and, you're stepping up with your team.
No, I agree. I think you mentioned just kind of being handicapped like that, and I also think that when your team isn't at the right position, you make certain investments into players that may hold down the fort for a year or two, but is that really going to be the future of your team? We mentioned quarterback. Are you just getting a quarterback to be average next year, or do you really think this can be your quarterback of the next 5, 6 years? So I think it is definitely a tough decision to consider, but I also just the amount of opportunities shows that any type of progress is good progress at this point. Locally, so we got the World Baseball Classic kicking off in Lone Depot Park today. And, there's a few different favorites for this. Obviously, we're going to be all in, excited to watch it. Dominican Republic, a big name. The United States is obviously a big name in this every year. Japan is a sleeper for me. Japan has a great pitching staff. Obviously, Yamamoto, Kikuchi. So I think that would be my dark horse pick, would probably be the Japanese team. But in terms of top three, I would say Dominican, United States, and Japan in that Class A group. Puerto Rican team is decent too. They got Arenado, Edwin Diaz, and some guys. But I think it'll shape out to be a fun tournament this year.
Yeah, definitely. And Miami's in the center of everything, Tyler, because they had great success here last time around. And
Yeah.
actually, they have always had success here. So they go where there is success, right? And here is a great party. I'll be going to some of the games, and you have the merengue, you have the rumba going on with the congas, and the drums and the whistles, and people singing in the stands, and people are not really used to that. When so you get that
No.
flavor into baseball, it's really unique and great. We're gonna have that here in Miami with that Group D, and then they have the quarterfinals, the semifinals, and the final, all at Don Depot Park. So you have the Netherlands, Nicaragua, Israel, the Dominican, and Venezuela here in Miami. I look for Venezuela and the Dominican to make it out of that group, to make the group of 8 that go into the quarterfinals. And that Dominican team, Tyler, you should mention it. They are loaded, man. They are loaded, and they have not had the success that a lot of people expected in the classic throughout the years. But this year, I don't know, it might be their year. They got everything. They got pitching, they got Sanchez and Alcantara, and then Alcantara probably will be going against Venezuela. And then you got Soto, you got Guerrero Jr., you got Tatis, you got Manny Machado. You know, that thing is loaded. By the way, the Marlins have 8 players in the World Baseball Classic. They have Otto Lopez also playing for the Dominican. They have a couple of players playing for Canada. So we're going to have the Marlins involved also in the World Baseball Classic. So I agree with you that Japan, the Dominican, and U.S. Should be the favorites. And the U.S. is loaded also.
Hmm.
They're ready to win it. When you got Scuba, you got Skins,
Yeah.
as the two Cy Young winners from last season. The only problem with that pitching staff, with that starters, they have a bunch of starters in that pitching staff. They have Webb also, but Scuba is going to make only one start. So that's the thing also with the classic, Tyler. You have a lot of rules and people, teams that don't want to take a risk with their players. So I understand it, but they had this insurance situation that kept some important players out of the classic, and Puerto Rico was hurt quite a bit. Lindor is not in it, by the way. He should have been in it, and he might be their best player. So that's something that I think that has to be taken care of for the future, because I understand the situation with insurance, and the teams want to protect themselves. But that was basically based. They make some kind of rule based on injuries from last season. You had an injury up to a certain level, I don't know, some weeks or whatever. You couldn't, you could not get insurance for it, and it's really it gets complicated. I think the guy is healthy. If the guy is healthy, he should be able to play. I mean, that's the way I see it. And guys that are going to make just one start, I think that's ridiculous in the situation with Scobo. Uh, you know, uh, I don't know, but that's the way I see it. Also, this type of tournament, a thing that maybe might not be great, the fact that you have limitations with the pitches, and you got whatever 60 pitches per pitcher. That's the maximum they can have, or whatever. Even if you have great pitching, if one of your pitchers, if you have, since you have to be changing pitchers all the time, one of your pitchers is not pitching very well, they get a rally, they make 5 runs, and maybe an inferior team beats you. So the rules also give some of the teams an opportunity, which I think it might be good. But sometimes the really top teams do not win the tournament. That has happened before, and Japan is very consistent in this type of environment. They're very well prepared. They're very disciplined. And you mentioned that the pitching staff that is very strong. So we're going to see them in Miami because they're probably going to be playing the quarterfinals here in Miami.
Yeah, well, and also, I mean, I think it's just like you said, such a great way to get the community involved and show, fans, not just Hispanic fans or international fans, but American fans of baseball, like what the sport has the potential to become in terms of excitement, fan engagement, and interaction and things like that. Because, like you said, it's a completely different experience, and if you've never seen it or been there for it, it would be just, I mean, incredible. So if anybody gets to watch that, if you are a local fan of ours, I would definitely recommend going by for at least a game or two.
Yeah, definitely. And if you're looking for tires, Balado Tires, two locations in Miami, Northwest 27th Avenue and 16th Street. And if you're in the Southwest area in Kendall, Southwest 8th Street and 67th Avenue, they have great prices. This is a family business. So they're going to treat you at least like a friend. Maybe not as family, because a family is a family, right? But they treat you well. They're fair with you. And they also have brake service. So looking for tires, the place to go is
Got
Balado Tires.
I got some Dolphins breaking news. The Miami Dolphins just cut Alec Ingold.
All right. You see, we're talking about getting some money. So
Yeah.
that is getting some money. And I look for them to make, we said in the next few hours, right? So
Yeah.
it was minutes. So maybe in the next few minutes or the next few hours, look for the Dolphins to make some other moves. Linebacker, safety,
Jason
Fitzpatrick.
Jason Jason Sanders will not be
Sa-
returning to the Miami Dolphins.
Okay, add it to the group. Jason Sanders, the kicker. So the kicker that they had last year that took his place did a good job, very good job, I would say. So that's the situation. You get hurt, you're out basically the whole season, and then sometimes you have to pay the price. That's the way that goes in especially in the pros. Tyler, what else do we got?
Well, we got our favorite segment, or my favorite segment. We'll go with my
it
least
is it
favorite
is your
segment
it
first.
is your favorite
Yeah, yeah.
segment because you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to work on it. You don't have to prepare for it.
Nope.
So that makes it your favorite segment, Tyler, right?
Well, it's that's
Yeah.
our fans know that I'm not pretending. All these a lot of journalists pretend that they know about the stuff. I don't know. I'm not going to tell you that I do.
But you're gonna be in Miami pretty soon. We're gonna be talking about that. I don't want to use that now yet. I'll use it later on. But you're gonna be in Miami pretty soon. So you already said it yourself. You are aware that you might be
When
involved with soccer. Yeah.
Once I'm informed about it, I can talk about it. Once I'm there and I see it, but if I were to sit here and talk to you guys about soccer, I would be lying to you. And we care so
But
much about our fans. We
okay,
can't lie.
that is at this time.
Yes,
You
at this
clarify that.
moment.
That is at this time. We're going to be talking, of course, about Inter Miami, DC United this weekend, Saturday afternoon, late afternoon. This is a team they should handle. They had a 4-2 win versus Orlando, their arch rival. Coming from behind, they were down 2-0, and they beat them 4-2, and that second half was excellent. And Silvetti came in, the young guy, helped out a lot. He did that at the end of the season. He was a factor in the playoffs for the Inter Miami, and not having Suarez. So they got him in early there in that second half, and he was definitely a factor. And Telasco Segovia had some comments which I think are very interesting. He said, if we play at this level and we're capable of playing at this level, there's no team in the MLS that can beat us. And I think that he might be right. They should be able to handle DC United. The only disadvantage right now, and I mentioned it last week, Tyler, the fact that they're playing away all their games until April the 4th, when they play Austin here at now. It has a name already, the stadium. They are close to the airport. It's called New Stadium. They take the name from a Brazilian company. So, New Stadium at Miami Freedom Park, and that is the new name of the stadium, which has 26,700 seats. So they thought about 25,000 initially, but I guess they went up to 26,700. Tyler, we're recognizing top Miami athletes. Sometimes they're veteran athletes, they're legends, athletes that are retired. Some are the young athletes, the youngsters that are coming up. What do you have for us this week?
This is a guy who I'm in love with his game. If your team needs a cornerback in the upcoming draft, this is probably somebody they can draft in the second or third round and get immediate production from. It's D'Angelo Pons from Indiana. He was their starting cornerback last year. I thought he was the best cornerback in college football. People don't think so because he's 5'8". If you guys listen to this podcast enough, we both love the short guys. If you're a short guy, send me your film and I'll probably talk about
Hey,
you.
short guy.
Yeah, short guys.
Yeah.
So, if he's 5'8", 174 pounds, and that's the only reason he's not a first-round pick, because first-team All-American, he was the defensive player of the game in the national championship, the best defensive player on a national championship team. He started his collegiate career at James Madison with Signetti, and that was the only person who gave him a chance, even coming out of high school during his days at Chaminade. He wasn't even the number one corner at Chaminade, down here in South Florida. Like we said, kind of an undersized guy. So the FCS program took a chance on him, and then Signetti made the move to Indiana, took the chance on Pons and brought him over, and it just paid off. So kind of goes to, we talk about these small school guys being able to make the jump and produce right away. And Pons went from being a freshman at James Madison, the very next year he's a starter at Indiana, playing for a national championship. So very impressive player and somebody who I think is representing our area, our region very well on a big stage right now.
Yeah, and it tells you also at the same time that Indiana coach might be the best coach in
Oh yeah.
college football. I like him a lot. He makes all the right moves. He's got tremendous discipline in that team. That team does not make mistakes, and I think that he's doing a tremendous job, and he's been very successful in the transfer portal. And if you want to be successful, and you don't have to worry about your tires. You have to have the tires from Balado Tires, with two locations in Miami to serve you better, very competitive with their prices. Tires, you know, tires, Balado Tires. And we come up to one of our best segments, Tyler. Your mother, she loves this segment, right? Yeah. She
Yeah, she
tries to
does.
figure it out. She tries to figure it out, and she's just like me, like her father. A lot of the time, she doesn't figure it out. All right. So Do I start or you start?
I'm gonna start today. This was
All right.
somebody who I guessed last week, so I'm gonna give you a question this week. We'll see if you remember. Kind of similar, kind of building off what you asked. Who has the most strikeouts single game in the Florida Marlins history or Miami Marlins history? Which pitcher has striked out the most batters in a single game?
Jose Fernandez,
No,
uh, Mr. Brown,
no,
Beckett.
no,
Oh my God, Willis,
no. Too good.
too good. I gotta
Yeah,
go back.
you got it.
I gotta.
You're naming players that are too good.
Oh, so Nolasco
Ricky Nolasco, or
again, Nolasco again.
is
He's
he holds he has every Marlins record. This guy.
so.
He
Do
deserves a
you have do you
statue
have
at
the
this
do you
point.
have the number there? You have the number?
Yeah, Ricky Nolasco struck out 16 players during a game against the Atlanta Braves in 2009. So yeah, it was a great game. It was mowing him
Wow.
down.
I he had some very good competition because the guys that I mentioned, the guys that I mentioned are really top players. And then there's one that I did not mention that could have had also maybe 14 or 15 lighter, but Nolasco does it again. Tyler,
Yeah.
this one, I don't know. You might be able to figure this out. Don't go for the obvious recently, no, very recent. No, I'm going to try to help you right off the bat. So this is the question: Who were, because there are two, who were the first two Heat players to be selected to an All-Star game?
First
They
two.
were selected, both of them, so that means that they were stars in that team. This was a very good team. I'm helping you out in the 90s, Tyler.
Hmm.
Very good team.
Okay, so I know who the first player is. It's Steve Smith.
No,
Wait, what?
no,
Oh
no,
man, wait.
no. Might be just a little earlier. I'm helping you out as much as I can, Tyler. They had that tremendous coach, the legend, Pat Riley, as their coach.
Was it? So was it later or before Steve?
Earlier, a little earlier.
So it wasn't Alonzo Mourning.
Yes. And who
Okay.
play who played with Alonso Morning?
Tim Hardaway.
Of course, yes.
Okay.
Hardaway and Alonso
Okay.
Morning.
I guess I had the
Yes,
times wrong there.
yes. 1996 All Stars for the Miami Heat. Tyler, number 78. Follow Abuelo and the Nieto, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook. Give us a like, even if you don't like us. I know you don't like me too much. I talk too much. I forget all the answers to sports trivia, but I know that you like Tyler. So give us a like. Abuelo and the Nieto, arrivederci. Hasta luego.